All right. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to thank everyone for joining me tonight. I will try to make this as brief as possible. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Josh Gannon. I'm the Director of Athletics here at Vestal. Been here about 2 years. It's a phenomenal district for many, many different reasons. And for one of the reasons is the offerings that we put forward for all of our kids in the co-curricular area, including modified sports. So the reason I wanted to do this is, I have kids that are going through the district, and, when my oldest started and entered 7th grade, I didn't really know a lot of the ins and outs. So I kind of wish I had done this last year, but through our crazy year that we've had this past year, I have done obviously a lot more Zooms and webinars, and I found that it was a real easy and quick way to get a lot of information to parents, especially during the pandemic, but even past that. Obviously we're all super busy, and I know some of you are probably cooking dinner or in the car or at a practice or whatever. So I think it's an easy way to continue to use this platform to get information out. It's really important for me to try to keep all of the parents informed as much as possible. So I thought this would be an easy way to do so. And with the crazy year that we've had, our current 7th graders and 7th grade parents kind of came in to modified sports in an unusual year. And obviously we have our 6th grade parents that are here with us tonight who are entering next year for the first time. So I thought it'd be a good way just to do a little run through. To be perfectly honest with you, I'm going to be asking you to help me more so than me help you. In the Q&A, any questions that come up as we go, just type them in. I will read through them at the end of the presentation and address any ones that I have not addressed. And that'll help me to update this PowerPoint for the next time I do this. So please, anything that I'm not touching upon, you're not sure about, you want me to clarify, don't be shy and throw it in the chat. I would really appreciate that. For those of you who have had kids gone through our modified program already, you'll hear some redundancy, so I apologize, but maybe you'll get some information that you haven't heard before or something that has changed, and we'll try to get everything out there that we can. Obviously, things can change, like we've had to live the last year, but I wanted to touch upon as much as I could here. So again, I'll go through these slides. I won't pause. I'll kind of go through them, and then at the end, I'm going to open up the chat and go through any of the questions that are put in there. Okay. So modified sports, I wanted to just give parents some start dates, right? So the fall season is going to be starting for varsity and JV on August 23rd. Modified football is going to start on August 30th, okay, a week after that. Most other modifieds are going to start the first day of school. There's some extra requirements in terms of practices for the sport of football. So as of right now, we're going to be starting modified football on August 30th and the other modified sports on the first day of school. For our winter sports, varsity and JV is going to start on November 15th, and modified will start 2 weeks later on Monday, November 29th. And our normal spring will start on March 14th. And our modified spring sports will start on March 28th. All right, so that's what we have as of now. There will be some, more so in the winter and spring, there'll be some lead up offerings that the coaches will do on their own. That'll be communicated, as we approach the season. But I just thought it'd be good to have these dates so you can put in your planner and your calendar. Modified sport commitment. So really modified is our introduction to school sports for our kids. So it's a interesting level because we're addressing 2 different types of kids. One of them is our student athlete that might have been playing that particular sport for years and play on travel teams and have, coaches and that type of thing. And then we have the student that just wants to try something for the first time. So we meld those kids together into our modified program. So our biggest thing with our modified program is flexibility, and I'll kind of go over why. Generally speaking, modified is 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week, depending upon the sport and the facility availability and the coach. And you either have practices or 2 or 3 games a week, depending upon the sport. Some sports you might have 1 game a week. And then depending upon weather, we might have 4 games in 1 week if we need to make some games up. But it's pretty much a 5 or 6 day a week commitment, generally for about an hour, hour and a half, and for a practice, hour and 15 minutes. And then games are actually usually a little bit shorter than a varsity or JV contest as well. There are some Saturdays, depending upon the sport and the coach and the facility. So there'd be some Saturday commitments as well. I'll talk about Saturdays a little bit later when I go over some philosophy. Oh, actually, right now. So our philosophy here is, my dream would be to have every single student participating in 2 or 3 sports for Vestal. Right? We try to encourage our students and our student athletes to participate in multiple sports. We don't try to emphasize specialization on a particular sport for a lot of different reasons. A couple reasons are, you only have one time to go through high school and represent your school and play a particular sport with all your friends. So our kids that have played 2 or 3 sports as they grow up, we want to continue to have them do that. We do not want them to specialize. There are times when some outside agencies, outside groups, programs, coaches might encourage students to specialize and play just that sport 12 months a year. Our philosophy is that we should be playing multiple sports for physical reasons, social and emotional reasons as well. It'll help decrease burnout. It'll help decrease the chance of injury, and it'll help for your athlete that might have aspirations of playing in college. As much as you think that I need to train 12 months a year in that particular sport, college coaches, when they come and want to meet with student athletes in my office, the first question is, what type of a student and kid is this kid? And the second question is, what other sports do they play? College coaches want athletes. They want competitors. So we try to facilitate that by offering multiple sports and hoping that our kids participate in multiple sports as well. Our coaches encourage our students to play other sports, and it's flexibility. We want to have some flexibility. So I'll give you an example. If a student is, their love is soccer, right? They've played soccer all the time. They play soccer. They want to play modified soccer. They play on a travel soccer team, but they also like basketball. We want that student to play basketball, and our coaches are flexible. If at the modified level, if your son or daughter has a travel soccer tournament on a Saturday and you have to go, you want to go to it, our coaches are going to be flexible and say, okay, we understand, go to that, and we'll see you on Monday. We're trying to get our athletes to play more than one sport. And it goes against that to say, well, if you miss that Saturday practice, then you're going to sit the next 2 games. Then obviously we're going to lose kids. We don't want to do that. So we try to be as flexible as possible to get our athletes playing 2 or 3 sports. It's also important that we want our kids to try different sports. If you have if your son or daughter is a swimmer and they swim all the time, that is great. But if they might miss the opportunity to try a sport that they haven't in the 7th grade or the 8th grade and say, you know what, I'm pretty good at that, or I enjoy that too. And then they have 4 or 5 more years to compete at that for Vestal. So that's our approach, is to try and get your kids to play multiple sports. Okay, our offerings. In the fall, what we're offering for modified is, for boys, we offer football, soccer, and cross country. For girls, we offer soccer, field hockey, swimming and diving, and cross country. As you notice, I have golf, question mark, tennis, question mark. What I mean by that is we don't have a modified program for boys golf or for girls tennis. But we have depending upon the year, sometimes there are opportunities for modified. I'll talk about the advanced placement process later, but we might have the opportunity, depending upon the numbers, to allow some middle school students to get involved in golf or tennis, depending upon the numbers and the availability of the facility, to at least maybe start to introduce that sport to them at the 7th or 8th grade level. In the winter for boys, we offer basketball, wrestling, swim, and dive. And girls, we offer basketball, and we also have the question marks with indoor track and cheerleading and indoor track for boys. So the same goes for those sports. We may be looking to incorporate modified programs for some of these sports in the future, but as of right now, we do not. But again, by trying to build our programs, our numbers and our quality of our programs, we'll be looking to get middle school kids involved in those sports when we can. Spring, we offer boys baseball, track, lacrosse, and boys tennis is the same as I mentioned for girls tennis. We offer softball, lacrosse, and track, and then we offer the same goes for the girls golf as well. Okay, registration. So we used to do a lot of paper registration and paper copies of this and paper copies of that. What we have done is, for those of you who don't know, is we do our online registration process. The program we use is called Family ID. The hyperlink is here, but also the link will be emailed out and sent out, but the link is always on the athletic website off of the district page. And basically what this means is you go to that Family ID website, you create a free account, with your email and like everything else. And then you register your student, your son or daughter through Family ID. Registration opens 30 days prior to the season. So for the fall, registration will open up on July 30th. The reason that we have to wait is because we have to provide a medical history questionnaire and an update on their medical history, and the state requires that we can't do that before 30 days prior to the season. So that's when registration opens up. The biggest thing to think about when you're talking about Family ID sport registration is physical. The nurses in the middle school approve the registrations through Family ID. So they go through all of the registration that you put in, and they look at the physical that you upload to Family ID. So that's the biggest thing I wanted to give you a kind of a heads up on. Physicals are valid for 1 year from the date they were given, right? Through COVID, we had some exemptions to that, but I'm not anticipating those to be extended in the fall. So what that means is, I mentioned September 9th, I believe, is the first day of school. So modified sports start on September 9th. Your son or daughter's physical is valid for 12 months. So if they got a physical on September 9th of 2020, then on that September 9th date, that's the last date it's valid. So that physical would be valid for the spring season. If the physical was on September 5th, 2020, that is past the 12 months, and that physical would not be valid. So any physical that has occurred from September 9th, 2020 till now, or till the start of the season, is a valid physical. So if you have a physical scheduled for your son or daughter, then you're good. You could just check the physical, your latest physical. If once you have a valid physical, when you register, that's when you upload. You can even just upload a picture of it, and that's what the nurse will use to go through and approve your son or daughter in Family ID. So physicals are always kind of the biggest question mark and confusion. Feel free to email me or contact me, but just keep in mind, just go off of the start date. So I mentioned football starts on August 30th. So a physical from August 30th of last summer, 2020, and August 30th of this coming August is a valid physical. So they just can't be older than 1 year. And a physical does not, this is important, a physical does not expire during a season. So let's say your physical was October 1st of 2020. The fall season goes until the end of October. On October 1st of 2021, that physical does not become invalid. Once a physical is valid for a season, it's valid for the entire season. You would just need a new physical for their winter sport. So I know it's confusing. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Also, the nurses, I put their emails on the PowerPoint at the middle school, Mrs. Bowen and Mrs. Carr. They are great with Family ID. They understand all the physical process, so you could also reach out to them as well if you have any questions or need any help. One other thing I'll mention about registration. So July 30th, registration's open. So you can go ahead and register on July 30th. You'll then, if there are any questions with your registration, the nurses will send you a message through Family ID. So you might get an email from Mrs. Bowen saying, I need to make sure that you get me a new physical. So they'll let you know where they are at. It'll say pending, or it might say approved. If you see approved when you check your registration status, that means your student's all set and the registration is approved. Okay. So again, it's pretty simple. The other good thing about Family ID is once you register your son or daughter the first time, it's probably going to take you 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes. But once you do that, all that information is saved. So when you go to re-register them, you just have to update anything. It takes very little time to re-register as the seasons progress. So once you get through that first time, it's a lot easier. All right, so that's our registration process for sports. I wanted to make sure everyone knew we have a full-time athletic trainer. So every day before school gets out, our athletic trainer, Joel Garrison, is on duty at the high school, and he stays until the last contest is over. He works with our varsity JV athletes, and he also works with our modified athletes. So he is here to help any student that's going through any athletic injury, okay? He gets here about 1:30, and he's here a lot. He's here all afternoon and all evening. So I put his email on here. The coaches will kind of be your liaison with Joel as well. So if your son or daughter is suffering from an injury or needs some help with some rehab on an injury, your son or daughter's modified coach will be able to get you connected with Joel. They might say, hey, I'm going to let Joel know that he's coming tomorrow, and I want you to bring your son to see Joel tomorrow before practice. Those types of things. So Joel is extremely talented. He's very positive. He's great with kids. He's a huge asset to our program. His training room is in the high school down the hall from the gymnasium. So that's where he is until events start after school. And then in the fall and the spring, he's out and about at the high school complex. The other thing I wanted to mention in regards to injuries is insurance. So if unfortunately your son or daughter gets injured participating in a sport, a coach then fills out an injury form and then sends that to my office. And then my secretary, Mrs. Schramm, then processes that. Our school insurance is like a bubble insurance policy. Basically what it does is if the injury occurred playing a sport for us, then our school insurance will cover any expenses for that injury that your insurance does not cover. So the insurance company is called Pupil Benefits. Basically, the process would be coach fills out an injury form, gets it to Becky. We mail you some paperwork for Pupil Benefits that you fill out and send to them. And then that documents with Pupil Benefits that it's an injury occurred with our insurance policy. And then that opens up a claim. And then once the claim is open, our insurance company will communicate with you, and then you would be just sending in any receipts or bills for any of the expenses that your insurance does not cover. Okay, strength and conditioning. So this has been a huge focus of mine over the last 2 years. We have invested a lot of time and resources into our strength and conditioning program, and we're trying to get our students aware of it and our parents aware of it starting at the 7th grade level. So basically, we have a full-time strength coach who comes in every day around 1:30. Our strength and conditioning center is at the high school, right near the pool, which is near the right to the left of the loading dock when you come up Woodlawn. And our strength coach was a Division I college athlete who has all his certifications for strength and conditioning, and he puts together age-specific and age-appropriate workouts for kids from the 6th grade on. So what we're trying to do is we're building a culture of all of our athletes to be working out in the strength and conditioning program from 7th grade on. Obviously, it's not as in-depth and not as often in the 7th grade and the 8th grade, but we're trying to introduce it to our kids, because part of our strength and conditioning program is teaching the fundamentals of body movements, safe and age-specific body movements, to build a core and build a base for our kids to be able to do more lifting activities when they get to the high school level. And we're trying to also show the kids at the 7th and 8th grade level how fun it is to work out and exercise with their peers, so that it's ingrained in their culture and our culture when they get to the high school level, and then they can see a lot more of the benefits to it when they're juniors and seniors, rather than waiting to introduce it to them when they're sophomores, and by then you won't see the benefits like you can if you start earlier. So it's not like we're throwing them in the weight room and saying go at it, and they're putting plates on a bar and going after it. It's a lot of body weight, movement, core activities, and fundamental movement activities that the students are doing at that age, and then we incorporate it from there. The district has done a fantastic job supporting my vision of that facility, and we're continuing to upgrade it, where we'll be hopefully upgrading it some more this summer, and it'll be more or less a brand new state-of-the-art facility come September is my hope, if not soon thereafter. And again, I wanted to emphasize that it's a program for all of our athletes. It's not the stereotypical barbells, plates, and dumbbells for the football team only. It's really for every sport we have, and to be perfectly honest with you, the facility is there for our general ed students for physical education as well. So we are really proud of the direction of that program, and we look forward to hopefully getting your kids involved in it. Coaches will kind of let you know what the schedule is, and then we also will either be using a Google Classroom or social media to get our kids involved in it as well. So I hope you encourage your children to get involved in that. All right, moving along, we are more than halfway there. Appreciate your patience. Schedule Galaxy. Schedule Galaxy, I need to stop share here for a second. Schedule Galaxy is more or less the hub for all of our athletics. Let me get there a second. I wanted to share it if I could. Okay. Bear with me. All right. Can somebody please, so if I'm sharing the screen correctly, you're going to see a calendar that says June 2021. Can someone just put in the Q&A that that's what you see? I want to make sure you see a bear. Okay, give me 1 second. I'll try one more time. Aha. How's that? Perfect. All right, thank you. Okay, so this is Schedule Galaxy. Schedule Galaxy, the link to it is off of the athletic website. And basically, this is a brief description of it. Every school in our league that we compete with uses this. So it's a web-based scheduling program that we use for all of our games, all of our practices. So I'll give you a couple examples. Monday, the 31st of May, there was a varsity baseball practice at 11 at the varsity baseball field and a JV girls lacrosse practice at 6 p.m. at Dick Hoover Stadium. On Tuesday, the 1st, we hosted Maine Enwell for modified girls lacrosse at Herrick Field, and we were at Binghamton at Franklin Elementary School for boys modified baseball gold. We enter our home game. So the good thing about this program is whatever you see here is what we think is happening in our office and what the visiting team thinks is happening. So there's no paper schedules where, oh, wait, it said we're at Seton and we weren't at Seton. If you look at here, whatever it says here is what everyone thinks is happening. So it's really important that I introduce this program to you so that you can keep an eye on it and get involved with it. Practices are entered in here, and we do a above average, we're not perfect at it, but we do an above average job at updating our practices. If something's canceled or changed, coaches are supposed to go in and update that. So there's a calendar format. And the other thing that I wanted to show you is when you go to this, you can toggle to your son's or daughter's sport. So let's just say your son plays boys varsity basketball. It then sends you, to the boys varsity basketball page, okay? So on this page is just boys varsity basketball stuff, practices, skill sessions, games, results, all of that. If you looked up in the left-hand corner, right-hand corner, it says unsubscribe. That's because I'm subscribed to it. But if you weren't, it would say subscribe. Subscribe to this schedule. You click that, you enter your email, and then by doing that, anytime a practice or anything for boys varsity basketball gets entered or changed, you'll get an automatic email and notification. So it's a good way to just get quick notifications of a cancellation or a postponement or a facility change or whatever. So it's a good way to stay on top of the programs that your son or daughter play in, okay? So that is Schedule Galaxy. Let me go back to my notes here. Subscribe to your team. Okay, Google Classroom. So again, Schedule Galaxy is the most accurate thing in terms of games and locations. The other thing I didn't show, but on an away game, if you click on it, it tells you the facility that that game is at. The host school has put in the address so you can get Google Map directions to that site by clicking that event as well. Google Classroom has been used really for the first time for our teams this past year. Obviously due to COVID. I'm anticipating a lot of our programs continuing to use Google Classroom coaches to communicate with kids and parents. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. Your son or daughter might get a Google Classroom code for the JV girls soccer team, for example, or whatever. So I want to make you aware that that's a possibility for communication from the coach's side as well. Okay, athletic placement process. So this is a process that New York State has in place for students that have demonstrated that the modified level is not the most appropriate level for them to participate in. Sometimes we have student athletes that the JV level, and in the rare case, the varsity level is a more appropriate place for them to play. I wanted to go over the process with you, okay? The process is a school-centered process first, okay? If a coach feels that a student athlete would not be at an appropriate level at the modified level, then they initiate this process. The process is the coach would come to me and go through the student and talk to me about their ability level, how they know, where they've seen them play, how have they evaluated them, why they think it would be best for them to try out for a JV level rather than a modified level. And I either say yes or no. I will say up front, I'm not a huge proponent of this unless it's definitely clear that that's what we should do with this particular student athlete. But for the ones that we decide we think it's the right way to move forward with, then what we do is we get parent permission. If the parents are on board with that, then the next step is they have to go see that's a school physician. We actually encourage them to go to their primary physician and get their physical maturity test. That has to do with their physical level, and if they are physically mature enough and developed enough to participate for that particular sport at the high school level. If they are, then there are fitness test requirements that they have to get put through. I actually have been doing most of those fitness tests. So if we get to that step, then I'd be reaching out and setting up a time to go through the fitness tests. And then we talk to the coach and the parent about the student's mental and social maturity to make sure that that's at an appropriate level. And if all of those requirements are met, then we move ahead. You might ask, well, how is a coach going to know if my son or daughter, it's appropriate if they haven't seen or met them yet? So if you're a parent that feels that there's the possibility that you want your son or daughter to be looked at or considered for this, then you can send me an email that I would then forward on to the coach, and I would just have the coach and the parent would have a discussion, and that process would start there. But I did want to make it clear that it's not like a parent or student request and yeah, go for it. They have to go through a process, and it's really a school-based process where we might say we don't really think that it's the right fit. We think they should play another year of modified and then try JV as a ninth grader. It's kind of a school-based decision, but it's fine for if you want to initiate a conversation as a parent, we can do that as well. Okay, so that's that process. For the fall, we would need to run that process through this summer. We would need to get final process and approval done, obviously, by the end of August. Okay, for those of you who haven't been on it or whatever, or new to athletics coming up, I try to communicate with parents as much as I can and kids as much as I can. And I try to do that through social media. I also do that to promote what our kids are doing. We have unbelievable kids here that accomplish great things. And I like to promote that as much as possible. So I do that through social media. So I also do it in other ways. So if you're not on social media, that's great. I wish at times I wasn't on social media, but you don't have to, but it's just a way. If you're on it, I wanted to make sure you know. I'm on Vestal Athletics on Facebook. I use Instagram. I also use Instagram a lot for the kids to get information to the kids, and Snapchat, and I do some stuff on Twitter, but I do a lot of if I really feel like parents, me as a parent, we're on Facebook. So I try to make sure I send stuff out on Facebook in terms of information. But you would see emails from me through Family ID as well. But I wanted to make sure you knew that we're on social media. Okay, sports bus and pickup. So some modified teams compete, practice, or play at the high school complex. So there's a sports bus every day after school. So if your son or daughter's on a team, they can hop on a sports bus that is on Bonita, facing south, I believe, every day after school. And that bus goes from the middle school to the high school right when the buses leave. And so they'd be at the high school by roughly 2:45 or so, and then they can get picked up at the high school or wherever their facility is, Clayton or wherever they're at. We don't offer any buses home, but that's where they can get picked up. At least you don't have to worry about getting there and driving them to the high school. Obviously, for things that compete at the middle school, that's not needed, and they can just go to their practice at the middle school. There are times where there's a quote unquote holding area. If there's, let's say, you have your son or daughter is playing modified basketball and they have a bus at 3:30. We'll have a holding area from the end of the day at 2:20 or 2:30, whenever that is. They can go get their homework done or hang out with their friends until 3:20, until their coach can come get them and get them ready for the bus or for the home game or whatever. Okay, buses are provided for all away games. I'm anticipating us still utilizing this transportation waiver, which means if you want to transport your son or daughter to an away game, that's fine. We also allow parents to sign out kids at the end of an away game if it's easier for you to just grab them and drive them home. Some coaches discourage that, and we actually, I don't encourage that to happen all the time, because we do feel like part of the participation in school sports is traveling to and from away games. But obviously with COVID, we had a whole new procedures for that this year. So I wanted to make you aware that at least we have busing for the away games, and that would go to the event and back if needed. All right, the toughest season for modified, as a modified parent myself, to just kind of feel like you are ready, is the fall, because June hits and we're gone and everyone leaves, and then all of a sudden the summer approaches, and we need to get everything ready. So I just wanted to throw a few other tips out. Like I said before, try to get your physical set up between now and July 30th. So just check your latest one. Make sure you have a copy of it if it's a valid one. If you don't have a valid one, try to get into your primary physician between now and July 30th and get your yearly physical done. I do know that obviously there are times when your insurance only allows you to do a physical, on a certain date. If for some reason it's impossible for you, you don't have a valid physical, and it's impossible for you to get one with your primary, then just shoot me an email and I can try to set something up with our school physician over at NWell Family. But we are not doing physicals inside the buildings anymore. So try to get your physicals squared away before you get busy this summer and that type of thing. The nurses then have to go in, like I said, they have to go through every registration and get them approved. So it's tough. Try not to wait until August 29th if your son plays modified football and think they're going to be all set and registered on the 30th. The nurse will check them, but they'll try to do them starting on July 30th, periodically each day to get everyone approved. If you wait to the last minute, there's a chance that your son or daughter would not be approved in time to start. Coaches are told, do not let anyone participate that's not approved. They open up Family ID, they can see all the registrations, and green means they're approved and red means they're not. And if they're red, they're not going to be participating. So just be proactive and don't wait till middle of August to try to get everything done. Like I said, these are just tips that I have lived by experience. I remember my oldest was participating in her first sport, and I waited to the last minute, and this was before Family ID, and I had to go to my primary and beg them to print me a copy of their last physical and drive it over so that she could try out for cheerleading, and it was a whole thing. So just try to be as proactive as possible with that stuff. Like I said, prior to the season, you'll receive emails from Family ID from either me or from the coach, just giving you updates. Sometimes there's some stuff leading up to the season. Sometimes there's some details of information they want you to know. So just keep an eye on your email from Family ID. It might be, it'll say from Family ID, but it will be from myself or from the coach that's in charge of that sport. Okay, I have my email here, jtgannon@vestal.k12.ny.us. I work all summer, so if anything comes up that you need clarification on or help with, don't hesitate to email me. I check my email about 550 times a day. So with that, I'm gonna stop share so I can do the Q&A. If you have any last minute questions, feel free to put them in there. I'll go through these as quickly as I can. All right. Okay, when is the first day of school? I'm 99% sure it's September 9th. Yes. I have it down as Thursday, September 9th, because there are 2 in-service days on Tuesday and Wednesday. I will make this available. This is being recorded. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload this to Vestal Athletics YouTube. If you want just a copy of the PowerPoint, just email me and I will respond, and I'll just send you the PowerPoint via email. But this will be available. The whole recording will be available on Vestal Athletics YouTube. Yeah, a parent made a good point. So there are some sports that are not offered for boys and girls. That would mean the other gender is obviously available. There's a process called a mixed competition process. So I'll use wrestling as an example. We don't offer girls wrestling, but girls that have an interest in wrestling, we would parents would reach out to me, and then I would work them through a mixed competition procedure and get them approved to wrestle if they meet all the requirements, and then they can wrestle as well. Yep, I can email the PDF out. Just shoot me an email, and I'll respond with the PDF of the PowerPoint. So, parent asked about 7th graders being considered for JV as well. So, the state policy says 7th or 8th graders can go through that APP process. It's very rare that 7th graders would go through the process. And here's the reason why. Like I said, the kids have to be evaluated. Their skill level has to be evaluated. It's very hard to say Josh is not appropriate for the modified level at a 7th grade level. He should go to the JV level when he hasn't played modified yet. So that's why most of the time 7th graders play modified, and then if they are extremely successful at modified and then have another year of development, then we can say, wow, they were really successful as a 7th grader. We should probably look at putting them through the process as an 8th grader to play JV. Sorry, I'm scrolling down here. Is Schedule Galaxy available as an app or only the website? There is an app. You can definitely use the app. I have found that actually, from a parent perspective, the app is probably fine. From my perspective, when I have to do stuff on it as the athletic director, I go through the web browser on my phone because it's just easier to go through stuff. But from a parent perspective, if you're just checking what your son or daughter's got and looking for the updates, the app is fine. So it is for free in the App Store. I'm just reading through one here, I'm sorry. So someone was asking a question about starting a modified program for a sport that we don't have a modified program in. I'm an advocate for that as well. There's obviously a process that we go through the school district in terms of budget and meeting the needs of our students. So for the parent that put that question in there, feel free to shoot me an email and we can have a discussion about that particular sport for boys and girls, because you are right. I think we might be one of the only, if not the only one of, it's very, very few in our league that doesn't have modified in that particular sport. How do we get connected if we are new? My son wants to do cross country in the fall as a 7th grader. So if you're new to the district, first of all, welcome. I'm glad you're here. It's the best district around. But also shoot me an email. So cross country in the fall as a 7th grader. Shoot me an email. You can go through the process that I just went over for registration. But what I'll do in the meantime is I will forward you and connect you through email with our modified cross country coach. That way he can get your son's information, get you some more specifics so you feel like you're a little bit ahead of the game with information. So again, shoot me an email and I will connect you with Coach O'Shea. Are there tryouts for modified football? No, modified football is not a cut sport. So we want as many kids that want to play football to play football. So you don't have to worry. If your son has not played football, then sign them up, have them try out, or it's not try out, have them participate. We will find a spot for anyone that wants to play modified football. I think we had about 30 kids participate this past fall or spring for fall in modified football. So definitely would love to get them involved. Is there a specific physical form or just copy of the latest physical? A copy of the latest physical is fine. If for some reason the nurse feels like it's missing information, they might respond back, but you don't have to use a specific physical form. Your primary physical documentation should be fine, but the nurse is good about letting you know. Are there additional fees? What equipment is supplied for various sports? There are no additional fees. We all pay our fees when we pay our taxes at the beginning of the year. So there's no pay for play here. So the only thing that might come up in terms of fees would be optional. Sometimes programs say, hey, let's buy sweatshirts or warm-ups or something like that. But that stuff would be all optional. It will not cost anything for you to participate in a sport here. Equipment that is supplied. It's a good question. I'm trying to give a couple of examples. For tennis, we generally don't, I'll put it to you this way. We don't automatically supply equipment. But let's say your daughter wants to try lacrosse, but she's never played it before and she wants to give it a shot, okay? If you said to me, hey, my daughter wants to try lacrosse, she's never played before and we don't have a stick and I really rather not buy a stick until I know she wants to do it, we'll get her a stick. We can figure that stuff out. So there's no like sneakers supplied, or like we supply basketballs and baseballs and all that, but we don't generally supply lacrosse sticks, baseball bats. Actually, that's a bad example because we have bats that kids can use. Kids don't have to have their own baseball bat. So I'm really botching this answer, but the bottom line is any equipment that's needed for your son or daughter to play, if they don't have it, we'll provide it. How about that? That's a better way of saying it. Yes, volleyball is available, and if I left that out, I apologize. Volleyball is available in the fall. We don't offer boys volleyball. There's no boys volleyball in our league, but we offer girls volleyball in the fall. So that would be starting on the first day of school for 7th and 8th graders. I can't answer official coaches' names for particular teams because they have not been board approved yet. So I can't answer questions about specific coaches. Modified volleyball. Modified basketball is generally, they do try out for modified basketball. We have a lot of, generally, I'll give you an example. This past season, we had to make cuts for boys basketball, but we didn't have to make cuts, I don't think, for girls basketball. It's really, we can really only keep 12 to 14 kids on a basketball team in order for it to be viable for playing time and stuff. So if enough kids are interested, then yes, we have had to make cuts. Last question I have listed: do students have to be fully vaccinated to play? My child is not old enough to get the vaccination yet. No, there's no regulations with that. We follow all the guidelines that we do for school. So there's no, we've had to wear masks this year. So stay tuned. I don't know what the guidance will be when we start up in the fall, whether kids will have to wear them or not wear them, or only wear them if they're not vaccinated. I don't know that yet, but all I can tell you is non-vaccinated students have participated up through this point. Let's see. So this was more of a playing time conversation with if a team has a lot of kids on it, will they be able to demonstrate their skill to get playing time. So playing time at the modified level is not equal, but all of the kids are given the opportunity to play and demonstrate their skills. The more skilled players might play more, but that's where the coaches come in with evaluations in practices and scrimmages. We also try to maximize as many games or scrimmages that we can get. That way we have more opportunity for kids to participate. So that's my answer for that. All right, that is the last question I have listed, and good, it's just under an hour, which is what I wanted to try to do. I'm going to mention my email one more time, so if you want to jot it down, JT Gannon, Gannon, and that's at vestal.k12.ny.us. So email me anytime, tonight, tomorrow, throughout the summer with any other questions. If you want a copy of the PowerPoint, I can email that out to you. And I'm here to help, and I'm looking forward to, oh, there was one other thing. I should have mentioned this with the registration. Unless the regulations change with COVID, okay? If your son or daughter unfortunately has had COVID, what we have to do is we have to put them through a return to play protocol, and our athletic trainer, Joel, will do this. If your son or daughter has not participated in a school sport yet and has had COVID, please email me, because what I'd like to do is I would like to connect you with Joel now so that they can go through the return to play protocol and get signed off on, so we don't have to worry about it when the fall season starts, okay? So if your son or daughter has had COVID and you have not participated in a sport, so I guess all of the 7th graders coming up next year that have had it, please email me and I'll connect you with Joel and he'll take it from there. It's a simple procedure, but more or less it's the state wants us to put the kids that have had COVID through a return to play just to make sure that they have fully recovered. It involves a doctor sign off on your end and that type of thing. So please email me if your son or daughter has had COVID, and I'll take it from there and get you connected with Joel and we'll take care of it. Okay? Again, thank you for joining me. I will upload this to YouTube. I'll email it out to anyone that wants it. Just shoot me an email. And I'm sorry, one last question. It'd be great if you did a basketball clinic for elementary students, school students again. The kids loved it. Yeah, we're definitely going to be looking to do more youth sport connections. This past year, our younger students really weren't able to do a lot, and we're going to be looking to make some youth connections and do some more clinics in other sports. So stay tuned for that. All right, please feel free to email me if you need anything or have any questions. And again, thank you very much for taking the time to be with me tonight. Have a good night.